In 1962, the U.S. nuked the sky. Like, literally launched a 1.4 megaton nuke into space and blew it up 400 kilometers above Earth. Same altitude as the ISS. Why? To see what would happen. This was Operation Starfish Prime, part of a bigger program called Operation Fishbowl, because nuking the planet's upper atmosphere apparently needed a cute name. When it detonated, it created an artificial aurora that lit up the sky over 1,400 kilometers away in Hawaii, knocked out streetlights, triggered burglar alarms, and fried multiple satellites, including Telstar, the one that made transatlantic TV possible. They turned the sky into a rainbow, then broke their own stuff. Nice. Spy Cats, Project Acoustic Kitty, 1960s. Yeah, you heard it right. In the 1960s, the CIA had a revolutionary idea. What if we used cats to spy on the Soviets? And so, Project Acoustic Kitty was born. They literally surgically implanted a microphone in a cat's ear, a radio transmitter in its skull, and a thin wire antenna running through its fur and tail. The plan? Train the cat to slink up to enemy targets, sit nearby, and secretly record conversations, without anyone suspecting a thing. Problem is, cats don't care about Cold War politics. The first live test was outside a Soviet compound in Washington, D.C. Within seconds, the cat ran into the street and got hit by a taxi. Project over. The CIA had spent over $20 million turning a house cat into James Bond, and it got flattened on its first mission. Turns out the biggest flaw in spy cat technology was cats. 3. The lake that exploded and killed 1,700 people. In 1986, in the hills of Cameroon, a peaceful lake called Lake Nyos suddenly exploded. Not flooded, not overflowed. Literally exploded. But it wasn't fire or lava. There was no sound, no warning, just death. Villagers started dropping dead. 1,746 people and over 3,000 livestock were found the next morning, lying where they stood, eyes open. No burns, no trauma. It was like the air had turned poisonous. Because it had. What happened? Lake Nyos sits on top of a dormant volcano. Over decades, carbon dioxide, CO2 from the magma built up deep in the lake, like a soda bottle sealed tight under pressure. But then something disturbed the bottom. Could have been a landslide. Could have been rainfall. And all that trapped gas erupted at once. A cloud of pure carbon dioxide burst out, invisible and dense. It hugged the ground, rolled downhill, and suffocated everyone in its path. They never even saw it coming. CO2 displaces oxygen, which means you're breathing, but not actually breathing. The victims weren't poisoned. They were asphyxiated, silently, in their sleep. The scariest part? Nobody even knew this was possible. There was zero warning system, no monitoring, no plan. Afterwards, the U.S. and French scientists helped install a giant pipe into the lake to release the gas slowly, like letting air out of a balloon, so it wouldn't happen again. So yeah, a lake killed 1,700 people, and it wasn't even mad, just gassy. 4. Nuclear missile base under Greenland's ice, Project Iceworm, 1960s. The U.S. once tried to hide 600 nuclear missiles under the ice sheet in Greenland. Project Iceworm was the secret plan, but officially it was disguised as Camp Century, a peaceful research base, built with tunnels, labs, even a nuclear reactor, buried under ice. But oops, turns out ice moves and crushes tunnels. The project failed. The base collapsed. Today, the melting ice is exposing leftover waste, including radioactive coolant. 5. Nukes for space travel. Project Orion, 1958 to 1965. What's the best way to get to space? Rockets? Reusable boosters? Nah, The U.S. once planned to launch astronauts into space using a machine powered by nuclear bombs. This was Project Orion. And no, this wasn't a comic book pitch. It was a real plan, backed by legit physicists and funded by the U.S. government. Here's how it worked. Step 1. Build a spaceship. Step 2. Load hundreds of small nuclear bombs underneath it. Step 3. Drop one bomb behind the ship. Step 4. Blow it up. Step 5. Ride the explosion. Upward. Step 6. Repeat. A few hundred times. Each detonation would push a giant shock plate at the bottom of the ship, launching it higher, like a nuclear-powered pogo stick. They claimed it could reach Mars in 3 months, Saturn in a year, and carry a whole football field-sized crew of scientists, gear, even space nukes. Because why stop at dangerous when you can go full Mad Max in orbit? Shockingly, the project almost got greenlit. But then came the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963, which outlawed nukes in space and the atmosphere. And just like that, Project Orion was shelved. Was it insane? Yes. But was it possible? Also, yes. 6. Injecting people with plutonium without telling them. Oh, and I have a video with a more in-depth about this topic. You can check it out in the end screen at the end of this video. Let's go. In the 1940s, under the Manhattan Project, U.S. scientists injected 18 patients with plutonium, the highly radioactive stuff used in bombs. These people were in the hospital for other reasons. They were never told, never consented, just used. The government tracked them for years, ran blood tests, took samples, didn't tell them the truth until decades later, and only after the documents were leaked. 7. The time the U.S. tried to tame hurricanes, Project Storm Fury. In the 1960s, America had a bold idea. What if we could control hurricanes? Not just predict them, not just prepare for them, but straight up weaken them by shooting stuff into the sky. Enter Project Storm Fury, a real U.S. government program that ran from 1962 to 1983, basically cloud seeding meets weather warfare. The idea was this: if you fly planes into the outer rain bands of a hurricane and drop silver iodide crystals into the clouds, you might be able to mess with the storm structure, force it to expand, weaken the inner core, and slow it down. It sounds crazy, because it was. They tested it on several real hurricanes. Beulah, 1963, Debbie, 1969, and Ginger, 1971. Some storms seemed to weaken. Others just got weirder. In fact, one changed direction and slammed into land, raising big questions about whether the experiment made things worse. After 2 decades of sketchy data, angry meteorologists, and rising lawsuits, Storm Fury was shut down. So no, the U.S. didn't invent hurricane steering, but did try to shoot storms with chemical snow and hope they behaved. Because in the 60s, if something moved fast and spun in circles, America wanted to throw science at it. So here it is. 7 times, the U.S. broke science for the vibes, from nuking space, to spy cats, to plutonium injections. Yep, the U.S. has a long history of pushing science to the edge, and sometimes off a cliff, just to see what would happen. Well, some of it gave us useful knowledge, and even helped millions of people. And some of it just left people confused, irradiated, or dead. All in the name of research. If this video taught you something wild, drop a like and feel free to hit subscribe, because I'll be back soon with another video.